Welcome to That's How We Do episode 2. Should you buy sports picks, brought to you by odds.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This is a very divisive topic, and I can't wait to have this conversation with the LoBaggers in the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining us. When I left SBR a few months ago, in February, I had to figure out how to continue to make a living. And right away, I was inundated with offers to become a pick seller immediately. And they were juicy offers. And I was told that I would make $10,000 to $15,000 a month, or up to $10,000 to $15,000 a month, being a pick seller. And I said no. And when I said no, you could literally hear jaws drop to the floor. And it's not because I don't like money. I want money very badly. It's because I don't see a value in picks. And everything that I'm doing with this show and everything that I've been doing for the last few years, I'm doing to try to make sports bettors and handicappers' lives better. I'm thinking about getting fatter pockets for all of us. And selling picks to them takes money out of their pockets. And we will talk about this very interesting topic through the night. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We got Gas Station Sushi, Nilo, Buzz Nuts, Alex Johnson, Big Ragu, Tony Brusher, Boston Nick, Buck Nasty, Swervin, Dennis Garcia, Ick Schnizzle, Paul Tucci, Jeff Joseph, Walter Scott, Predictions Guy, Garth Daisy. What a great group. And let's let the legend Big Ragu get us started in this interesting conversation. Says sports info moves across different avenues. This is from Big Ragu. Some people have a need to pay for their info and others don't. It's dependent upon your models of capping and the goals you are trying to achieve. The goals you are trying to achieve. And Paul Tucci says 3 minutes to post at Fauna Park. I like that you keep fighting through this, Paul Tucci. Don't forget to get as much money in at Fauna Park as possible. I know there's a guaranteed pick 5. Bad Beat in the house, Prince of the City joining us as well. So Big Ragu says something extremely interesting. He says, some people have a need to pay for their info, and others don't. It's dependent upon your models of capping and goals you are trying to achieve. And we talked about that last week on our first episode of That's How We Do, whether you can make a living sports betting. And we talked about the magic number. And there's a few of them in sports gambling. The first magic number is probably minus 110. If that is the first magic number, then the second magic number has to be what percentage you need to break even with minus 110, which is 52.38%. So one of the companies that offered me work as a pick seller told me that the goal of their company was for their cappers to hit 55%. 55%. So if you break even at 52.38%, let's just go over some of these math here. 55.5% is an average of a minus 125 line. And that's what you're doing buying picks. You're not, the VIG no longer is minus 110 because your VIG increases. So to make a tiny sliver of profit, depending on the cost of the picks that you're buying, let's say they range between $9.99 and $500, then you need to hit 55% to break even. So the way I took that information was, well, the goal for this company is that handicappers hit a level where their clients break even. That's the goal. The way I broke it down was that I would be in a situation where I would be incapable of sustained profits for my clients Because if my clients were hitting at 53%, which we agreed yesterday is a spectacular number to hit, it puts you in the elite of all sports capping. If I hit 53% for the year, if my client made every single one of my bets, they would lose money. They would lose money. Rye Cape joining us as well. Swervin says, Jimmy, the truth. Jimmy, the truth. So for me, it often goes down to a simple numbers game. And we're going to have Dom Ricci, another legend in the sports gaming, in the sports capping industry, joining us to talk about this as well. If we're talking about pure numbers, we have friends who are elite cappers. They're elite cappers. And some of our friends are touts, and I get it. And this show will go down to, should you buy picks? It won't be, should you sell picks? Because I understand why cappers sell picks. It's simple. I mean, we all have to make a living. And when you sell picks, you're dealing with guaranteed profit. And that's why so many in the industry who are well-known pick sellers stop betting. And you ask them, why did they stop betting? And the answer is simple. Why mess with this profit margin? And I understand it completely. And we have friends, all of us, who are touts, who are some of the best cappers that we've ever met. And some of them focus only on one sport, and they do an excellent job at that one sport. Viper MB says, how much profit do you make on 53%? Well, again, that depends on your bet size. And if you're dealing with minus 110 lines. I mean, we got to go back to my first hockey season in front of you guys. I hit at 42.7% and was got up to 43 units up and ended up 30 units. And it was because my average line was very high. So if you hit 53% on minus 110, if minus 110 is your average line, your unit size better be $10,000. $10,000 a bet, or your profit is going to be minimal. Hustle Wilson in the house. Great to see you, Hustle Wilson. Nilo says, relaxing and having a Corona in your honor. That's very kind of you. Boston Nick says, buying picks is lazy, in my opinion. Shouldn't be gambling if you're buying picks. Now, I don't know. I mean, the one thing about buying picks is that your work is not involved in the process of making the wager. And that's not a bad thing if you win. But if you lose, I would imagine you would have that much more anger over losing because your insight and your feel for the game didn't come into play. Bad Beat says, is the money you get paid guaranteed when you pick games? And if you buy picks and pickers don't make 50%, you get money back? No, Bad Beat. No. No, you pay for a pick, and at that point, you're at the mercy of the success of that pick. So that is the main danger I see with pick selling, is the 52.38% that you need to hit to be profitable. Gas Station Sushi says, I agree, it's lazy. It's like showing up at the end of the day of fishing and buying other people's fish. Garth Daisy says, does anyone here buy picks? Where are the satisfied pick buyers? So that's another thing. I'd be happy and really want to hear the other side of the fence. I want to hear from those cappers who have paid their mortgage month to month to month through buying picks. And I hope that they show up in the chat. And I hope that we see them here. Paul Tucci says, buying picks feels lazy to me. Without doing the work, you will miss opportunities. I also feel like if a tour has a 25-1 live long shot, or a tout. I mean, if a tout has a 25-1 long shot, they won't publish it. I think that they will publish it. I think that, so there's one of the problems that we've all felt within the pick selling industry is that there isn't honesty and transparency with record keeping. And how could there be? If you show that you're hitting 51% or 51.8%, which is good, your clients are still taking a loss if it's at minus 110. You can't have your record done by a third-party account because you won't be able to then sell the picks. So it's a tricky slope. You have to almost misguide the people who are your followers or your fans or your clients, because you can't show them what's actually happening because you'll lose too many clients. And then we get to the point where we've seen touts change tickets to make it look like they've hit these bombs. And then we've had people come in and show how you exactly change the ticket and how easy it is to change a ticket on a computer and then show that winning ticket. That is the problem, is the transparency and honesty. And if you are transparent and honest with your action, how many clients will you lose? So let's go back to the chat here. Catch Caleb says, I found you don't need to buy picks. There's so many people giving away picks. If you take the time to figure out who the good cappers are, then use your own knowledge to make good decisions. Catch Caleb, that's such an important point to all this, is there are free picks everywhere. There are free picks everywhere. And it takes away the need to buy them because, as Catch Caleb says, if you have handicappers that you trust that are giving out picks all the time, then you know that there's less of a need to actually pay the money, which then would require for you to hit a high percentage. And we want to hear from both sides of the story here. So this isn't us sitting here bashing touts. In no way are we going to do that. In no way is that our plan. Prince of the City says, I don't think it's lazy when people buy picks. I think they assume someone is smarter and wants to make money. Not everyone gambling has any clue about sports. That's true. Paul Tucci says, what I like about this group is we bounce things off each other. In the end, I make my own decision off of my capping. Gas Station Sushi says, and Gas Station Sushi has put so much money into our pockets live on our live betting horse handicapping shows that we've been doing every day. He says, I give my picks to contribute to the chat. Use my own handicapping, but I compare my notes with other good handicappers in the chat. Dennis, Guillermo, Jimmy, Marco, Luke, Kevin Reed, Rod. That makes a ton of sense. And I do the same thing. So when I break down the horse card, I ensure that I've capped every race, or at least until there's only one track left, and then we can focus for the full 25 minutes from race to race. So almost every race, as many races I possibly can before I will look at, let's say, Gas Station's picks or Dennis Garcia's picks. Hustle Wilson says free picks are not always winners. You're damn right. Picks aren't always winners. And that's, to me, what takes the value away from paying for them. If we're all fighting as hard as possible to hit the 53%, where is the need to spend money on them? Carlos Bros saluting Gas Station Sushi, as you should. Nilo says someone like Maxwell Smart, who's a close friend of ours, and says, I have and will pay for his college locks or looks. Maxwell Smart's spectacular capper, elite. And he focuses on one sport year long. And I understand, Nilo. I absolutely understand. Predictions Guy says, I honestly don't see how anyone can make a living only playing minus 110 bets and hitting 53% unless you have a massive bankroll and are making a lot of plays every month at $1,000 units. There's Sun Dizzle in the house. Let's talk about another thing. Let's talk about something that pick sellers, because we don't need to. I think that handicappers that sell picks feel like the word tout is offensive for some reason, and we can get into that in this conversation. Big Ragu here in the chat says the biggest problem giving touts black eyes is clients usually come aboard when they are losing and catch the pro losing also, hence a bad scenario. One of the things that you'll hear from these guys who sell picks is that, look, I work so hard at giving you these picks, and I've spent a lifetime studying the ins and outs of whatever sport they're talking about, so that I have the skill set and the knowledge to give you this pick. But for me, the pick doesn't have value. So it doesn't really matter how hard somebody worked on it. The capping process has so much value. Understanding the way a great capper caps and what they're looking for, that has value. That's like you can give a man a fish, but if you teach him to fish, that's that whole analogy. But if you're giving something that I don't necessarily think has value and saying how hard you work at it, it's like if somebody comes up to you on the street and it's like, here, I've got this dance for you. And you're like, no, man, I don't need you to dance for me. And they're like, come on. I worked really hard on this dance. I've been working on the Running Man my whole life. But there's no value in the dance. So we will get back to these things as well. Catch Caleb says, I agree with Prince. It sucks because you have to take into account talent. Just because one guy can make money a certain way doesn't mean everyone can duplicate that. Gas Station Sushi says, I see the chat as a giant virtual roundtable where people bounce their ideas off of one another, some great, some not. It's all makes sense. Anthony Dahlia says, you talk about transparency. I used to look at the log from Sportsman, and you could go back and look at the picks. The running total used to be so cringeworthy, I actually thought of going opposite. That's the problem of trust in this industry. Because if you trust these numbers, I mean, I went on to Vegas Dave's site and today, and he said, you know, that he hits 90% on his locks, and there was one package where if you bought it, you'd go 50-0 and 140-0 and 130-0. It's trust. It's hard to trust that sort of information. It just doesn't sound real. Alex Ramirez in the house. Thank you for joining us. We have a great group here and very important topic. And that's what we're going to be doing on this show every Wednesday night here with odds.com. We are going to be discussing the most important topics in the industry, and we're not going to blow smoke. We're not going to, live in a fairy tale land. We're going to talk about these very, very important things. And the question for me is do they have value? That's the question I have. And I understand why pick sellers don't bet. I completely understand it. And if you're a successful pick seller, you'd be crazy to risk what you're getting 100% profit on. In fact, if you were a successful pick seller, you shouldn't bet. It doesn't make any sense to do that. All right. Nilo says, I'd rather you post your losers and winners, or the winners you and what your edge is like Max does, so you do well, almost inside information. All right. Let's bring in a legend in the game, someone who's been in the game for a very, very long time to help us illuminate this discussion And that man is the one and only Dom Ricci. We're going to add Dom Ricci to the stream. Dom, my man, how are you?
How you doing, Jimmy? Can you hear me okay? Everything good?
Yeah, you're money in the bank,
All right,
Dom.
brother.
You are money in the bank. Let me
Just,
switch this around to there we go.
just
Dommy.
let me thank you first of all for having me come on. You know, this is a subject that we've talked about in the past. This is a subject that I've wrote about in the past. And so it's a great subject. I'm glad you're doing it. And I thank odds.com for letting me come on and for having the let's call it the gumption to keep it nice and G-rated, to have the gumption to put on a show like this and talk about a subject that, listen, it's I'm sure it's going to ruffle some feathers, and I'm sure a lot of people have different ways of looking at it. So anyhow, I'm glad to be on. I've been listening.
Dom, one of the I capped with this guy, and I miss him. It was a LoBagger, and I miss him very much. Named Captain Cesana. And he said something to me right when I started, because when I came down to Costa Rica, I was overwhelmed by the amount of touts that there were out there. And Captain Cesana said something to me that, and I'll never forget it. He said, "It feels like everybody wants to be great pick sellers, and they don't care about being great gamblers."
That's a good point.
And it stuck with me. It's been 3 years since he said it to me, and it stuck with me. You have a big, long history in the game, and you know what it was like back in the day. And I, the word tout, it feels like, is almost people take offense when you call them that, Dom.
Mm-hmm. And I see why. And there's a reason for it. And I think as sports gambling and picks and free picks and paying for picks and all that has evolved, I think there's become a difference between selling picks and touts. For me, my definition of a tout and why I've always been against them and still are today is because if you look up the word tout in a dictionary, it says it's aggressive selling, exaggerated selling, making more of something that it isn't. It's basically marketing and a sales job. That's different to me than someone who's honest, like you mentioned, Max. Someone who's honest, people that we know that sell picks, whether we agree with the selling picks or not. I think there are people we can trust to buy picks from if we chose to go that way. But as far as the word touts, I think the tout is a negative word. I mean, it started years ago. To me, the first time I heard it with tout was way back in the 70s with horse racing, with the pink sheets and the red sheets at the track. And, they're picking a couple of horses and they're selling it. It looks nice. And you're figuring, hey, this guy is printing up his sheet. He must know more than me. That's not necessarily the case. And so the tout thing, I think, started off very negative. They used to have the 800 numbers and then 900 numbers. $10. Hopefully, let's say me and you have a line. We hope 500 people call us today. We give out one game, the Yankees against the Mets. 250 people, we give the Mets. 250, we give the Yankees. The people who lose, we say, if you lose my bet today, you come back tomorrow for a free play. It's a no lose situation, right? We get collecting on one half. The second half of people are calling us back, and we're going to get a percentage of those who win the next bet, so they're going to call us. And that's why, to me, tout became like a bad word, a negative word, and it's stuck to stay like that. Even to today. You mentioned Vegas Dave. To me, that's a tout. That's an outright tout. You can't prove anything he says. He's all flash and glory. He's showing you his Maserati that he might have rented for the day. He's showing you the big condo that's his parents'. You don't know. So that's why, to me, touts is a negative word and should be. But selling picks, not necessarily. So you got my point?
Yeah, I got your point.
Yeah.
And I understand it because, as we talked about earlier, we have friends who are in the pick selling business whom we love dearly and who are elite cappers.
Yeah. And it changed my mind on the subject. I'll be honest with you, it changed my mind. Stubborn old Italian that I am. It changed my mind on the subject because I trust these guys. And if I had to buy picks, I would go to some of them. I would go to an Ian Cameron. I would go to a Ski Profit. I would go to Drew Martin. but I can't mention. There maybe one or two more max, but I can't mention many more because I don't trust them. I think it's a scam, So that's
Well,
that's the thing. Is it
my
selling picks or if it's touts?
my issue is very simple. We talk about the 52.38% that you need to break even.
Right.
So the 53% you need to show a slight profit. The 54% that you need to be, if your unit size is small, to be making enough money gambling to, improve your life, improve your life. We talk about, and Gas Station Sushi came into the chat and talked about, we talked about us working together is about defeating the juice.
Right.
If we work together, and like we've been doing successfully, well, for me up until last week, I took it in the shorts last week, but we've been successfully because we've been working together. And if you add the price of the pick cost,
well, there you go.
Now you need to hit 55%, and still on this show, and I understand why, on this show, I don't know where are the guys who are buying picks successfully.
In my view, Jim, not many people that buy picks have success, and the ones that they're not going to come on and talk about it. They're not going to. First of all, it's going to be hard for someone to come on and say, you know what, I was buying picks for 2 years and I've spent $250 a month with so and so, and I didn't do any better. I still lost the same amount of money, and so you have that part of it for sure.
And they tell you, they'll say, look, I worked so hard, I deserve to get paid. But if you're working so hard at something that doesn't have value, like if somebody comes up to you and says, look, I knit you this flask. And you're like, what? I knit you this flask. I worked so hard on it. And you're like, look, does it hold liquor?
Right.
I don't know. It's wool, but look how I spent 4 years on this knit flask. I mean, it doesn't have value to me, and it'll always come back to whether or not something has value. And it's changed a lot from those 1-800 scams that they used to do, because that's a real simple scam. And then I totally understand why cappers sell picks. I mean, it just makes so much sense to me. Here, Tucci says, if you are a bad capper, purchase pick may be improvement over your own capping.
Could be. And why do so? That's the subject. Then why do people buy picks? And what is their motive for buying picks? Are they, first of all, getting back to the touts? To me, guys that are touts, they're going after the guy who's losing. They're looking to nickel and dime and just drain this guy. They know he's losing a lot of money by the way they talk to him. By you give away stuff when you're talking, and I think they just milk you dry, and they just prey on those guys that are. Because let's face it, if you're buying picks, there's a good chance that you're buying picks because you're losing, not really because you don't have the time to cap correctly. It's probably because you're losing, and you're just like, I don't know what to do. I'm in the hole. I got to get out of this hole. Let me try this guy. Maybe he can help me dig out of that hole. And for me, that's where it gets a little bit dicey. And that's when you get like the Steve Steven type of guy. The guy could sell, as they say, ice to an Eskimo. The guy has the gift of gab. I don't hate the guy. Listen, you're giving him his money. He's not robbing you. He's not putting a gun to your head, but he is preying on, he knows the game. He knows how to market himself. Speaking about a guy who probably never makes a bet, I'm sure he never makes a bet, but he surrounds himself with some guys that I guaranteed are legitimate handicappers. We happen to know one of them that even Big Ragu has talked about, that a couple of those guys in that office, they're legitimate cappers. They would have to be for him to last so long. So obviously he's giving out some good information, but that guy is just, he's calling you, he's preying on you. And that's the kind of stuff that I have a hard time with. I have a very hard time with that.
Maxwell Smart joining us right now, who is elite. He's as good as a college basketball capper as I've ever seen. Says winning bettors end up getting kicked off books. leaves less options to make a living. And that is an excellent point.
Oh, that's
That
an
Max
excellent point. If you
making.
bet that
And
kind of money, but
well, I remember
our guys betting that kind of money in general. If you think about it, our whole group of guys, or just the average guy, is the average guy betting that kind of money that he's going to try to make a living at it. It's a mix, right? I would think there's more recreational handicappers than there are guys trying to make a living out of it, or a
no
semi
doubt.
living out of it.
No doubt, but the hustle is real. We're trying
Oh,
to
the
have
hustle is
fatter
real.
pockets.
The
And
hustle is real.
I was with Max, well, not like beside him, but we were, capping nonstop beside each other. It was not this college basketball season, but last college basketball season when Bet365 kicked him off.
Right.
And it wasn't because he was mean.
No, because they see, they see what he's doing.
He's winning.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, that's that's just that's the name of the game, and that's a good problem to have because there's plenty of places to bet. Right now, there is, over the last few years. A couple of years ago, maybe not, but now, that's not a bad problem to have. That means you're doing pretty good.
I respect Max so much, and it's exactly what you talked about off the top, Dommy, is that how your view of pick sellers changed and it continues to evolve. And that's why we're having these discussions, and nobody's questioning why people sell picks, and that's not what this show is about. It's should you buy them?
Should you buy them?
We know.
What are you looking for? What are you looking for? Are you looking for someone to tell you all your bets? Are you looking for someone to confirm what you're doing? I mean, what are you looking for? What kind of, and then if you want to buy picks, what kind of service are you looking for? There's a lot of different services out there. There's expensive ones. There's ones that are cheaper. There are guys that charge by the month. There's guys that charge per pick. There's guys that charge per day. That's a whole. What are you looking for? I know what I would be looking for if I was going to buy picks. I know what I would be looking for. I'm not looking for a guy to give me 5-10 picks a day. I'm looking for a guy to give me 5-10 picks a week. I'm looking for that one guy to give me, charge me whatever you want per month, but I don't want to picks every day because you're not giving me winners. You're not. It's the law of averages. You're not going to give me winners every day. Give me 10, 15 solid plays a month. Hey, that's a whole nother ball game, right?
I can't wait till we get back to normalcy, because, and I brought it up last week on episode 1. I don't know, because I'm going to cut down my quantity of plays in hopes that my unit size will rise. But I really want to put it into action to see if I still take the dogs, because if you're only making one bet a day, do you lay off that plus 300? Right. That is, for me, I was, this hockey season was extremely frustrating. I had back-to-back giant years in front of you guys. And then when the season ended this year, I was down like 4.82 units, and it was so frustrating. But I was hitting with first period dogs.
Right.
Would I still be able to, if I was only making one bet, would I still be able to take the Detroit Red Wings first period?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I agree with you. If you're only going to make that one bet a day, that's different. But cutting your bet size down, I mean, there was times when I was making 7, 8 baseball bets a night, and for me, that doesn't work. 3 or 4 works for me. 7 or 8 or 10 really don't work for me. And then again, you got guys that volume works. That's another subject. Volume don't work for everybody. You would think that, hey, listen, if I bet 20 games, I'm going to win. I can't lose them all. If I'm going to bet 7, 8 games, I can't lose them all. Well, guess what? Yes, you can.
Catch Caleb says, I don't think guys that buy picks watch the show. Guys doing their homework watch the show. Guys that want to turn a quick profit and want to find somebody they can make them a little money off buy picks. And I get that. He's like, they're not here on a Wednesday night trying to sharpen their game. And so when Garth Daisy says, where are the pick buyers? Does anyone know any long-term regular winning pick buyers?
Winning? No. I know some pick buyers, not winners. Are they out there? Is there really out there? I mean, I don't know. that's a tough one, man. That's a tough question. Uh, like getting back to what you're looking for if you're buying picks. Um, like a guy like Ian Cameron, he he's a guy that and I know he's not trying to scam us. He's he's probably betting and he's the type of guy that's probably betting the picks that he's putting out because he's a transparent guy. He's like, listen, this is what I'm playing, this is why I'm playing it, and this is what I'm giving to you. Now that to me, that's fine. And I have nothing against a guy like that. And I agree with Anthony was saying, Prince of the City. There's not, all guys ain't, it's not all negative. I agree with that. But now if you get into somebody that wants $300, $400 a month, with your unit size, why? If you're a $50 better, you shouldn't be paying $300 a month to get the picks. You shouldn't be. If you're a $100 player, you should not be paying like that. You shouldn't be.
Schnizzle says, to me, I find sports betting a lot more fun capping games myself.
Yeah.
The capping is more fun than the actual game itself for me. And we talk about that all the time, Schnizzle. We talk about what, when you win a game and you've broken it down and then it comes to fruition. And with horse racing, it's the most exciting because it's, that 2 minutes of excitement. But you've contributed to this huge score. And it makes things, well, it doesn't have to be even a huge score. You've contributed to the score, and it makes things so enjoyable. Schnizzle says, I use this platform to gain knowledge and insight from other great handicappers.
But there are some guys that come on our shows, that come on your show specifically, and they're just looking for your picks. They don't want to do any work. They don't want to do nothing. They just want to tail somebody. And, for me, that's foreign. And for most of us, that's a foreign way of looking at it. But it happens, and these are the same kind of guys that'll get mad if they're losing because you said I'm on this game or that game. Every once in a while you'll get a negative comment. Meanwhile, you're not, I don't see why you would get a negative comment on a loss, but that's how some people are. And I find that a little bit tough that people are looking for like free picks, free information, and without doing any of the work. To me, that's just so opposite of what we do and what I do. And
we have Maxwell Smart in the chat, and part of there's so many reasons why I respect him, but his transparency talking about this and coming to us from the other side. And he says the hardest part of selling picks as a volume bettor is choosing the strongest plays. That's why this year I use my models and overnight lines to get the best edges. Max, do you want to jump on the show right now? If you do, we would just absolutely love to have that other side of the equation. And I don't want to push that on you, but
that's a tough thing to do for a guy like Max to put out. What you going to do? He's betting 15 games tonight, but he can't put all 15 games out. If he's selling them, he has to go to the,
Max says, send me an invite. I'm going to get Maxwell Smart on this show. His transparency with everything he does, it's impossible not just to love the guy. I'm going to bring him on right now. It's going to take me about 20 seconds, Dom. You take over for
buddy. Yeah, sure. Got to send the link and then send it over to Twitter. The whole. So anyhow, yeah. Listen, this is a subject we've been talking about for a while. The seller picks. As a matter of fact, I started doing these little Twitter reports called the LoBag reports a while ago, and this is one of the subjects that I touched on. And what set me off on the subject was, I'm not going to mention the guy's name because now it's already a couple of years ago, but there was a guy who started up his own website, and he started giving out free picks every day. And it went on for a couple of weeks or maybe about a month. And this guy was good. He knew what he was talking about. He was talking about systems. It was basically baseball. And he was talking about why he likes this team and why and the guy was entertaining. He knew what he was talking about. He's definitely a good capper. And I was enjoying him. And I got kind of friendly with him. And I told him, listen, why don't you come on? I mentioned, Jimmy and Pete, and I mentioned what we do with the chat and stuff. And he started coming on. About 3 weeks later, all of a sudden, he put up the paywall. Now, everybody that was on his website, all the guys following him, now he wanted $25 a month for him to go on his Discord. Now he wanted $25 a day for his picks. And to me, I blew up on the guy. I went nuts on him because to me, that was just a total scam. He was just trying to reel everybody in. And I didn't, I just thought it was bogus. So to me, that's a tout.
Yeah.
That's it annoyed me. No matter how good he is, and I just found it that way. So
No,
I have a problem
I
with that.
completely understand, and I remember it. I
Yeah.
remember it well.
Right.
Let's bring in our next guest, popping in right out of the chat. Honorable, transparent, and a pick seller, and I love him, and I respect him. He's coming on the show right now. Please welcome to the show, Maxwell Smart.
Max,
Maxie, baby, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. Glad to be
this is a first.
put into the conversation. I'm liking how it's going, and I think that we're gonna get both sides of the coin. It's gonna give a better perspective to everyone else.
Max, let me ask you this: if you're, because Dami and I talked about this too, and there are a couple pick sellers that focus on one sport only, and they're elite, and you're one of them. You're spectacular at capping college basketball. Now, if your clientele got bigger, which I expect it will, why in the world would you make bets?
I think that it's just, first off, for me personally, I am a degenerate. So making bets is going to be something that I have to do regardless, just because I know that's another revenue stream that I cannot allow to dry up. That's how I look at it. I always tell people, Jim, I'm a crab fisherman sports handicapper. I have my season. I go out and get as much as I can, and then I sit back all winter and get fat.
Deadliest catch.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, for me personally, I obviously understood from going on social media, like, the negative impression that a lot of people that have services get. I think that it is quite hard to win consistently year after year for people, but there are people that have done it. I have guys that have been with me for 5 years, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, I have criteria for what is going to allow me to bring you on. I'm not going to bring on anybody just because they want to send me some money. It's not like that. I make enough money for my bets, but I can't say no to someone that wants to pay me for my time or pay me for my knowledge.
I get that. And that makes sense. But do you see where the difference is with touts and selling picks, though? Do you agree that there's a difference?
Yeah,
like you said, I'm a known tout hater. You said it right before.
Yeah.
Okay, but you see the difference. I'm not a known selling picks hater. I'm a known tout hater. That's a difference in my eyes.
That's the problem, that the two get spinned in together.
Yes.
I think that when you have to look at it is someone that you want to buy picks from, you want to be able to know what their face is. You want to see their face. You want to hear their voice. You want to know that there is some sort of company or some sort of body of people holding these people accountable. For a guy that has some like emoji as his profile pic, I don't know that guy. I can't look into that guy's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big telltale sign. And I think that there are a lot of guys like out there like Chris Barr who've just made a bad name for anybody that wants to make a buck off their plays.
I got you. I agree with that. But Jim, like you were saying, if you're selling picks and it makes sense from a practical standpoint, why would a guy who sells picks, who's getting X amount of money in a month, why would he bother risking betting? But as a guy like me who wants to buy picks, I want to buy picks from somebody who's betting those picks. So a guy who maybe not is betting, he might have to say that he is, because I know Max is making bets. So I trust Max. The guy that I know is not making bets on what he's telling me to bet on, I have a problem with that, of me trusting that individual, whether I know if he's doing it or not. But you understand what I'm saying, Max, on that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that it really comes down to the individual. I think that it's really easy to paint and generalize, but I think that conversations like this really do a good job of nullifying that. Also, we also have to take into consideration what the client is doing with the picks that they're getting. I always tell guys that are coming on with me, if you want to buy my picks, the best way to profit off them is to only bet my stuff and not to bet anything else. No, nobody can do that.
Right.
And Odds HQ in the house, thanking you for joining the conversation, Max. What are the biggest negatives that come with pick selling? Is one of them when somebody who is buying your picks doesn't bet them all and starts picking which ones to bet? Like, what are the biggest negatives? What are the things that bother you the most within it?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of customer service issues that come up. People will come on at the wrong time. People will come on and lose a couple days in a row. And then they start to just like verbalize their thoughts instead of keeping it to themselves. There's also issues with guys that aren't bet sizing appropriately. Everything should be flat base. There shouldn't be different bet amounts unless the units are stated to be different.
Right.
And the fact is, a lot of guys want this to work out in 2 days, when if you buy a guy for a month, you need to let the month go out and have relative and realistic expectations when it comes to profit. If I'm charging you $225 a month, I'm going to make sure that I guarantee you at least $500 worth of profit. So if that isn't reasonable to someone that's doing this as side income to like get their vacation money, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
We have a question from the chat, Max, from Garth Daisy. It says, Max, are your clients high rollers with huge bankrolls or more casual bettors?
I think that more of them are casual bettors, but they all bet at a certain amount that makes my package price applicable and appropriate for what they're going to get out of it by the end of the month.
So as far as you're concerned, the way for someone to buy a picking service is, and it's what I think is, you got to buy a monthly service. You can't be buying these guys picks for the day, every day, $25 a day. And listen, it's human nature. If I'm giving you $25 for your pick, I want that damn pick to hit, and I'm going to be pissed if it doesn't. That's human nature. Right. So like you're saying, if you're giving me, and I mentioned it before, if I'm going to buy a service for a month, I don't want 10, 15 picks a day. I want 3 or 4 solid ones, or maybe 10 a week. And I'm thrilled.
Yeah, that's why I try to use my models the most that I can and use those overnight lines, because that's where your best edges are before everyone else has got an opportunity to bet it. But it's definitely easier said than done to have a successful and profitable pick service year after year.
Right.
How many years are you in now, Max?
This is going to be my 5th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And we talk about how when you cap a game, and as we all do, and you get the cash and you put so much effort and energy into figuring out how you're going to extract money from this event, and when it does, it's glorious. And when you buy a pick, you're not involved in that, and how often, if that pick then loses, you'll be twice as angry or even angrier. Have you had to deal with the extremely angry client?
Yeah, I've had to deal with it, and I've basically been very blunt. I'm like, listen, you pay me for a service. I don't get paid to take your verbal abuse. And if you're going to freaking do that, then I can be pretty spiteful. And I think that everybody knows that from just knowing how I am. Like, if you want to be a dick to me about that when you've paid me, some guys out there will literally give you losing picks. I know guys out there that have done that to clients, that they have literally been like, this guy's verbally abusing me. He's fucking talking shit all the time to me about my plays. Well, then I'm just going to freaking just throw it in for him.
Uh-huh.
We have another question from the chat. Max. This is so illuminating. I'm loving this.
Wow.
Thank you so much for joining us. Paul Tucci says, so is pick selling your side hustle and betting your primary?
Yeah, betting is my bread and butter. Pick selling is something that I do as side money because it's available, and I'm not one to turn down any kind of money. But ideally, I'd like to do content do a little bit of pick selling, and then make the majority of my money from betting. Because let's not forget, I'm a volume college basketball bettor. I bet sometimes 1,500 bets a month. And if I'm hitting 58 to 60% of those, I'm making good enough money that I don't have to be completely greedy, even though I am greedy.
Love it,
And
Mike.
that's real, though. Hey, listen,
Yeah.
that's real, and that's why someone like you, I mean, you're straight up, and you say it straight up, and that's why I have no problem with what you do.
Are we not all trying to get rich?
We're trying, right, in one form or another. I agree with you.
I'm just doing every way that I can that's legal, because my past is going to the other side of the tracks. So
Yeah, well, that's another story. That's another subject we won't get off right now.
But I've watched it intimately. Max getting booted from Bet365.
You mentioned it. Yeah,
I've watched Max's giant days and Max's tough days, and I've watched when Max has 10,000 involved, and we're talking the average bet not being as high as you would think if somebody had $7,000 or $8,000 involved. Bad Beat asking questions, and you don't have to answer all these questions, Max, and we're loving that you are. Bad Beat saying, what is the average bet that you make, Max?
Well, I try and keep a flat base of $100 a bet. And on a Saturday college basketball card, between sides, totals, team totals, I could be freaking 10 grand deep in $100 bets.
right.
I believe that my biggest edges are my best content to sell and to do like play the day videos with. But overall, it's always going to be, for me personally as a capper, through experience of losing, is to play all my edges and never to leave possible money on the table.
Nutflush Allen says, Jimmy, I will cap Giants games each day for hours. And that's one of the things we did on the show, is we would have people, focus on just what they excel at. And like for Dami, I mean, like he was our New York Mets and also our Islanders and Rangers export, but everything Mets, he was giving us winners. And then we did that with Nutflush Allen with the Giants. And he said, Jimmy, I will cap Giants games each day for hours, and I will have a bet on the game myself. And if it wins, I don't even get half as excited as when I give it to the LoBaggers and the cashes. And I remember you, Max, coming on our show, every afternoon show, and your pick of the day was keeping you up at night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
It was driving me insane. I was like, Jim, like, don't make me do this. Like, let me just like.
That's tough.
And also, you also have to take in consideration, like, college basketball, the best lines are overnight. When you're putting out your play of the day, let's say like 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, you're gonna get killed in the long run, in my opinion. I think that it's really certain sports you have to bet certain times a day. Some sports you don't have to, like the NBA. But for college basketball, it's an overnight betting situation if you want to get the best odds and best juice.
So, Max, what do you think somebody should look for then? If they're looking for a service, they should, first of all, they should be looking for what?
Well, they should be looking for someone that they can communicate regularly, that they can communicate with, that they can see on screen, that they can see some sort of written publication that they're doing. There has to be some sort of imprint on another platform aside from just selling picks.
Right.
That's probably key for me. And then really it's just like what people are talking about on the street. If you have a good reputation, I think that helps big time. And I think that if you're very charismatic and you produce and create good video content, that's going to help you sell a lot in the end also.
And there's Bad Beat says, I find it very interesting. It's same bet on all bet size on all bets. I mean, that's something that, we've been taught, and it makes sense. But I have seen Max, on team totals, and was it first half team totals that you were for start, timesing your bets by 5? What was it about team totals that you thought you had a better edge on?
Well, I think that with certain offensive teams, you knew what they're going to come out and produce in the first 20 minutes, because what happens in college basketball, it's completely and most often a tale of two halves, meaning that let's say Creighton's playing Georgetown and Creighton puts up a 45 spot on them. Chances are that game is going to be able to slow down. That game is going to get closer in the end, and you may not hit that full game team total, but I'm sure that you're going to hit that first half team total, and I think that applies to a lot of gifted offensive teams.
Yeah, and I watched you times it by 5. I'm saddened that you didn't get the chance to destroy March as you so often do. How's it been in this COVID quarantine? How have you kept your shit together?
Timing.
I don't know. I've been watching a lot of like shows and catching up on stuff, but not working has been pretty good. I've enjoyed not having to step into any kind of bar nightclub in like 7 months. But I'm working on D2 and JUCO capping, and I'm looking to even make some book and put out some lines and see if some people can take my money. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an extremely interesting conversation, and I enjoy this so much. What we have coming up, episode 3. Who is the best handicapper? Why don't we know? Can we know? Should we create events like they've done in poker so that we can know who is the top 10 handicappers in America right now? Who is the best handicapper in the world?
Some kind of tournament you're talking about, like an actual buy-in tournament where people
put up their own money,
and keep track, like you said, like a poker tournament. Like that's something that's interesting for sure.
That will be episode 3. Who is the best handicapper? Why don't we know? When will we know?
What will we, or will we know, or is that the person who's going to be very secretive? Remember, there's a lot of big bettors out there that you would never know in a million years. They were big bettors. They don't want you to know, right? Everybody isn't going to come on like we do and talk about, games. I mean, guys that I know, older guys I know that bet a lot more than I bet. They're guys that bet $500,000 a game. They think what we do is insanity. Talking about games, talking about picks. They think it's nuts. They actually watch once in a while because they find it entertaining. But I've tried to get some of them to come on. They're no way. That's their game. So everybody has a different outlook,
Yeah, no doubt. Max?
Sorry, I used to feel the same way like those guys. I was like, why do I want to like come on and like share my knowledge with people when I'm making money? But then I realized that I was capping by myself and it was really boring and I wanted someone to talk shit to.
And let's face it, we're not taking money out of each other's pocket. We're trying to beat the bookie. So it's not like we're hurting each other by giving out what we're doing. So,
and I can't wait for episode 3. Who's the best handicapper? Why don't we know? When will we know? I think it's going to be great. Prince of the City says, when I give plays, I was usually pretty confident in it. I assumed most here would put no more than $100 on it, but I was usually putting much, much more. I just wanted people here to win. Predictions guy says, Maxwell Smart, how do you calculate what your selling picks should be worth? Do you take into account the unit size and calculate how much to charge, or do you just charge as per competition?
Yeah, first off, I have criteria before I take someone on. That includes their unit size, how many sports they're capping, how disciplined they are, how experienced they are, and then I charge based on what I feel that the time and effort I'm going to put in, and what the value is on a monthly basis. I think that for the price that I charge, I know that I'm going to make you double or triple what I'm charging you. So I'm confident in the price, and I'm confident in the price because this is something that I've calculated. This is something that I've worked out, and I feel that if you put too small of a price on yourself, people aren't going to take you seriously. Someone that wants to sell you a $5 pick is not a pick that you should invest your money in. If someone wants to know their true worth, then they have to charge it.
Yeah, do you think so? Yeah, that's something I'm not so sure about, but I get what you mean by the $5. But a guy that charges $100 a month doesn't say if you charge $300 a month and I charge $100 a month. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a better capper than I am, does it?
I just see it. It's a business. It's not volunteer work. It's not that kind of stuff. You got to do what you can to make the most out of your image and your brand. if some guy values his brand less than I value my brand, well, that's the difference in philosophy there.
Right. There's a difference in philosophy. They might think, listen, everybody, there's all difference, There's guys who charge. I was in the moving business. There's guys that charge a lot less than the normal rate because they figured they would get more jobs. And then there's guys like me that tried to charge the higher price because I wanted the better jobs. So I'd rather have less jobs and make more money than doing a ton of little jobs. But it's all relative, I guess, when it comes down to it. I guess. One of the pet peeves I have, which isn't about selling picks, is about unit size. And guys happen just because someone bets more than somebody else. Again, I don't think that makes him a better capper. If you bet 500 a game and I bet 100 a game, that doesn't. Some people might think, oh, he bets 500 a game, he must be better than Dom, who's only betting $100 a game. I know that goes on out there, but I personally don't think that's true.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But I think that when it comes to someone who's selling their plays,
that's different.
That's different. But
I got you. I got you.
From a player perspective,
right? Okay, I got you.
Max, Garth Daisy saying, Max, thank you so much for sitting in the hot seat. Your transparency and you're just honorable dude, and jumping into the chat like this it made the show better than I could have imagined. So thank you so much for that. Dom, after we've sat here for an hour and discussed this important topic, do you have any final thoughts?
My final thoughts is that if you're going to buy picks, if you find yourself in that you need to buy picks or that you want to buy picks, maybe you want to learn better. That's a way you can even learn better on how someone's capping. Maybe do your homework. Do like what Max says. Make sure you got somebody that you could look up their record. You could talk to them. You could see them. They're not, some kind of scam. They're not telling you, well, if I lose today, I'll give you a free pick tomorrow and all that nonsense. Do your homework. Listen, like I said, Max, I evolved over the years because of you guys, because of meeting guys like you and Ski and Ian and guys like that I keep on mentioning, because I trust you guys. So I don't have, if I felt the need, I would do it that way. That's why, but I would never be calling a guy like Steve Stevens, that's for sure, because I see him on TV and I see him driving his Lexus and, so. Right? Yeah. So that's what I would say. That's the only thing I would say. Do your homework if you need to buy, if you find yourself that you need to buy picks.
Yeah. Transparency and communication.
Key.
I think those are the two key points that Max brought up.
And also, I'll say this: if a guy's out partying, driving around, having a good time, that means that he isn't putting the work in. Right. The most dedicated cappers are the guys that sit at their computers all day, watching games, intaking data. Like, that's just what it is. And if you're not using data science in your pick selling service, then really you're throwing darts.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's a great point. Great.
Absolutely. Great. I mean, we started this discussion, an hour ago, and I was questioning and saying that I don't know if there's value in picks. And I can understand there being no value in paying for picks for a guy like me who wants to cap and understands the fight to get to the 52.38% and get above it. But I can also understand why Max has a whole bunch of clients and his client base is growing every year, because he's transparent and honest, and you can communicate with him. And we have some of Max's clients in the chat, so I see it from both sides. And I love having these important conversations because people are afraid to have them.
Yep. Oh, without a doubt, they're afraid to have them. They're stepping on some toes. But if someone feels like you're stepping on their toes, then they're probably the guy who you don't want to buy a service from. Put it that way.
Garth Daisy says if the picker seller is hitting 55%, it's worth it.
I gotta hit 58 to 60% to make it worth for my guys, and I feel that with mid-major basketball, you can always do that in college.
Big Ragu says this subject could go down so many different avenues. I really enjoyed the avenues we went down tonight. We have nothing without this chat. You guys are so special. I have nothing without the support from the chat and odds.com that is sponsoring the show and giving us a platform and creating a situation where I can survive and put all my work into this. And I can't wait to hammer Gulfstream Park and Oaklawn Park tomorrow. I can't wait that it culminates with all of us, Dommy Gunn, Big Ragu, and all of us together on screen on Saturday for the Oaklawn Derby. And we get 2 flights of the Oaklawn Derby. Sadly, Charlatan will go off at 1-9 on one of them, but we get to see Nadal, all 1,380 pounds of him in the other. So big thanks to odds.com.
Yeah,
but
great.
Big thanks to these guys in the chat. Paul Tucci, Nilo, Boston, Nick Swervin, Carlos Peroge, Ik Schnizzle, Big Ragu, Prince of the City, Jordan Nordman, Marco Lou, Garth Daisy. What a great group. Gas Station Sushi, I'm sure he's watching that race right now for the pick 5 at Fawner. Man, I hope that 3 comes in. I saw the first comment in our chat was Gas Station giving us the pick 5 if anybody wanted to run. Bob Taylor says ponies tomorrow. You're damn right. Ponies Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
We'll be here Sunday. I'll be next to Jimmy on Sunday with Big Ragu, and we'll be back doing our thing on Saturday. And tomorrow we'll be in the chat with Jimmy rocking those horses and Max saying, "What's going on with these horses?"
I love when Max comes on. Man. But I heard he's been off of donuts for 6 days. So is that facts, Max?
Oh my God, I'm on a diet right now. Yeah, no apple juice, no donut, no pizza, no burgers. Ooh. Yeah, it's not fun eating. I'm trying to just pass through the days by sleeping and working on college basketball.
Hopefully this thing will be over soon and we'll be back to normal. I guess you guys heard about baseball, what they're trying to do with baseball, right? So that should be interesting.
The 3 divisions, I worry about baseball. But I tell you what, NHL and NBA.
Max killing me, no baseball.
NHL and NBA just shut down. Please, can we start in October for NHL fresh in a full season? Can we start in NBA near the end of October fresh and for a full season? Please.
Yeah, I don't even want to start trying to cap hockey now after this layoff. And I agree with you. I hope they just lay it off and let's start fresh.
Yeah, we should just be talking about college basketball because free agency's going, baby, all year long.
It is. Max, any last words or shout-outs?
Just thanks very much to odds.com for having me on tonight. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Dom. Great to be with everybody in the chat. And just gonna be a good old Canadian boy supporting my Yukon Huskies. Watch out, Big East, because we're coming for your dinner.
All right, man.
Dom, love you guys. Max, thank you guys so much for joining us. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Episode 2 in the books. Episode 2, should you buy picks? This was really interesting. And Max really was icing on the cake, but couldn't have done it without Dommy or the chat. Love you guys. Back next Wednesday for who is the best handicapper in the world right now or in America right now. Should we know? Why don't we know? When will we know? When can we create a system so we do know? That's next Wednesday. Much love to all of you guys. On behalf of odds.com, thanks for the support. And we will catch you guys tomorrow morning. The first race pops off at Gulfstream, I'm guessing 1 o'clock. So we'll start at 12:45. I'll put that stream up shortly. Much love to you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I can't wait till things get back to normal. But without them being normal, we got the horses. We hammer the horses. See you guys again next Wednesday or tomorrow morning for the horses. Much love to all you guys. Thank you for your support.
Thanks, guys.